Thank you, Alan, very much. Council, thank you very much for attending the meeting of Wednesday, July 12th, 2023. And thank you, staff, for your attendance, and we certainly appreciate those in the gallery as well. Today's meeting will be held as a hybrid meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock, or at 1:30 rather. Today's meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Before we begin, I'll give a land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people, who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. The nations along the banks of the Thames include the Chippewa of the Thames, Oneida Nations of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moravian Town. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, our community, our past, and partnerships in the future. Again, today's meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on. The agenda has been circulated. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion that the regular agenda of council dated July 12th, 2023 be accepted as presented. A mover, please. Councillor Choi, seconded by Councillor McCollum. All in favor? Carried. Council, we have a couple of delegations and presentations before us today. 4A is the Trillium Drive resurfacing petition. Delegation has the speakers of John Kish and Barry Westholm. I hope I pronounced your names correctly. We're delighted to have you gentlemen here. We want you to feel very comfortable. And Alan will make sure that you're positioned properly, that council may hear you, and I'll put you in Alan's hands for the time being, and he'll get you seated, okay? Thank you. Alan, you might require maybe an additional chair. Would you look at an additional chair? It might be a good idea. There's one, we'll just tuck beside that. And you come up as well, Mr. Westholm. Gentlemen, thank you for attending again, and you take the floor. Proceed with your presentation.
I guess I'm starting, and I am John Kish. My friend with me here is Barry. And do you prefer that we stand, or we're okay?
No, you just the position you find most comfortable.
Okay, well, this is comfortable for me. My discomfort is I'm quite vision impaired, and anything white light, it's like I'm sitting in a snowstorm. So bear with me, and I may have to wear glasses at times because but anyways, I will use that. Try to stick to my zero time limit here, like if I got 30 seconds.
I think you got about 10 minutes.
Thank you. My name's John Kish, and I'm familiar with some of the folks here. Thanks for allowing us to present today. I've lived in Mosa for over 40 years as a resident taxpayer in the old Mosa. I live, I guess, on the edge of Skunk's Misery. Whenever I go to town in the morning for breakfast, everybody always says, how's things in Misery? So that's, I guess, how we're referred to up there. I once thought we are in the most southwest part of Southwest Middlesex, and I thought, well, maybe we're a hamlet of some sort. Then instead of hamlet, you had to have 5 to 10 places on 1 acre lots, or last ours happened to be on 5 acre lots, but I still kind of consider us to live in a little hamlet of Skunk's Misery. To kind of go back a little bit here, I was happy in Skunk's Misery the way we were on a gravel road and minimal services. But over the years, we did get a municipal water line thanks to Bothwell, and we hooked in and enjoyed it. We had the same rural internet that most people didn't like. And my wife once said to me not that long ago, I wish we could get fiber optics. I said, well, we'll never get fiber optics in my lifetime, and it won't be till after the road's hard top for sure. Anyways, 2 weeks later, we got fiber optics. We now have 1 gig of speed. So some things are changing. Out where we are, when the water line went through, was probably when our road was at its very worst to travel. Those guys really destroyed roads, but they have been left as gravel roads. We get the regular brine treatment and the same services as everyone else. But after amalgamation, it was kind of a surprise. I read the Glencoe transcript and talked about resurfacing or hard topping some rural roads in the southwest Middlesex municipality. A study had been done by, I think at the time, the road superintendent, and we were identified on a short list. So I was kind of shocked. I guess I'm a bit of a car guy, and Barry, if you're a car guy, you like paved roads. I don't think anybody begs to live on a gravel road. Anyways, the short list was there, and it just kind of remained that way for a number of years. Whenever we happened to get a politician around, we would bend their ear a little bit and say, what's going on, and is this ever going to happen? And I guess that brings us kind of where we are here today. I never pursued it for various reasons, and I've given lots of reasons as to why it wasn't feasible. At times I did ask, and some of the people here in the room have probably had me talking to them as politely as I'm able to. And then more recently, I guess, my friend who's a paratrooper dropped into the neighborhood and he stayed, and he's kind of talked to me about the hard topping the roads and pursued the petition, and that's why we're here today. And I guess as I go back to, I know it probably increases property values to be on a hard top road. It probably increases the taxes, which I have no issue with. There's just lots of reasons. The road's heavily used by our own people. It's heavily used by horse clubs, ATV people, hikers, people that do research on butterflies, on and on it goes. And most recently, I'm not sure where it came from, but speed signs appeared at both ends of kind of our subdivision. Now, when you drive down the road, it says 53, 54, measures your speed. So I'm not sure where that came from or exactly what it's doing. Maybe you guys can provide information on that. But we're just here trying to find out what the parameters are around the hard topping or hard surfacing of some of the roads. I know, at least I believe some are being done now, completed within municipality in the Glencoe, maybe Melbourne area. And I saw there was some other option about microfiber. Don't know how that impacts us, but it just said it's all part of a safe and efficient transportation infrastructure. And I guess that's all we want to be part of as well. And don't know where this heads or if there's questions, but at this point, turn it over to Barry.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Barry Weston. I've been in the area for about 3 years out of the military. And when I first moved in, resident who was in my place, a fellow by the name of Herb Gale, the conversation about the road came up because there's a lot of beautiful houses out there, beautiful homes. And it seemed odd that there would not be a paved road in that area. And then the story came up about that it was supposed to be paved way back when, and everybody sort of gave up on the subject. And then I went around and asked, and around campfires, the subject of the road being paved was one of those things that just sort of sticks around like a burr under your saddle. And a lot of the guys and women that I talked to just said, you're not going to get anywhere with the council by going there. This has been something that's been going on for 2 decades. And I said, well, it can't hurt to give it a shot. And then as information started coming in, I was told too that there was actually monies put aside at one point to have that done, but they've got misplaced or something like that. So perhaps those are still floating around there, the dollars or whatever. But everybody on Trillium Drive that I've spoken to, every household, does want that road paved. And I think given the amount of families in that area, that very small area, that it's a very reasonable request. The other information was brought forward on my briefing note. There's some information on budgetary issues going back to 2007 and 2010 where this road pavement issue was brought up, and I'd be glad to bring those, pass those to council for recording. Yeah. And that's about it. But mostly if there's any questions that council might have after that briefing note, we're here to answer those as well.
Thank you. We'll give council that opportunity as well, Barry. Council, you've heard the presentation as such, and gentlemen, please interject if you need to, but we will certainly open it up for questioning from council or comment through the chair. Go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I know you sent several emails, Barry. One email, maybe you could elaborate on that, was there was another part of Trillium Drive the same road we're talking about that does have tar and chip.
Absolutely. If you were to look at Trillium Drive like a bookshop, it's bookended on one side by a paved road. I think there's a lesser number of houses. And that's the very, very far side of Trillium Drive as you go through it. And then it goes back into gravel after you go past the house, which makes great sense. And I thought that given that that was there, that sets a precedent as well to have a similar situation for us. So again, there's an example one can use.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Vink. Any other questions? A follow-up, Martin?
Yes.
Go ahead.
If you don't mind, Barry, I know you people are paying high taxes there. Could you maybe tell the audience what kind of taxes you're paying down your way?
I think around 6,000 a year.
And that is on a 5-acre property,
yeah.
so there's substantial frontage on that, which,
It's a small frontage long back,
okay.
but it lots of again, one of the beautiful things about living in that area is coming to realize, about the environment and things like that too. And I've been doing a lot of study on carbon capturing and the amount of trees needed to displace a human being in the environment. So really, as a model, that little area is doing quite well because the amount of trees on each property actually carbon offset the amount of human beings that are in that area, almost neutral. So yeah, it's a short frontage, but it's a long back.
One more, Martin. Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
I just want to point out, I've got a few comments to make, so if you want
Yep, no.
other council members to ask questions, and then I'd like to have the chance to
Okay.
make a few comments.
I can do that. The council have been asked for questions. Are there any? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Mayor Mayhew, I'm just wondering how many houses are in that stretch and do we know how long of an area it is?
There's 14 houses, and so you could average 4 persons per house. And I think it was a 2 point something kilometer stretch.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Question
Yes, go ahead, Councilor McCollum.
through you, Mayor. You said there's pavement on both ends. Does that mean down here by the dump site?
Yeah, it's not a dump, but a transfer station.
Transfer station. It was a dump. And that's why it was done now.
Right.
And that was done in, I don't know, it's 85 or something like that.
Oops, right, yes. No, that makes sense. And
Well, because of the traffic over there
Yeah.
too.
and that's
But
one of
then
the
there's
reasons that-
there's people up front of that right now are complaining because of the steam.
Oh, well, yes.
And then again too, with a hard top surfacing like that, you have to maintain it more like in the wintertime, it's gotta be plowed more often. So here, we have to run quite a ways for go down there to do that 2 block section or 1 block section to get to corner.
Well, one thing I'd like to point out there is the little area that we're talking about getting paved butts up exactly to Clashing or Clacking Road. So I mean, there's a paved road right there, so it's a T-junction. And it wouldn't be like you're driving to it, you'd be actually right at it. I would even suspect that the amount of change that has to happen between plowing equipment in the wintertime from grader to plow might even be saving yourself some money because you have to hang it right down the road rather than walk it out.
No, it don't matter that way. Or
Or the same vehicle.
same thing, it's the salt content in that. For
Right.
hard for.
Yeah.
So there again, you're going to have a truck running partway with better material than other.
That is Southwest Middlesex not maintained 1/2 of Clafton Road. Since Clafton Road is Chatham Kent and Southwest Middlesex.
Yes, I believe so, yes. No, I don't know which one.
Chatham Kent would be the west side, and Southwest Middlesex would be the east side of the highway,
It's a county road.
county road.
But that's the Clacking Road.
Yes.
Right. But they don't do any of. Really?
Okay.
Yeah, Councilor McCollum is correct that the salt and sand composition in gravel is a different mix than what it is on pavement. You know, the decision will, you know, council will perhaps may ask staff to bring back a recommendation. And that will be a data-driven recommendation. And it'll be up to council to accept a data-driven position or a political decision, so to speak. And that's where the numbers will come into play when that recommendation comes. We must look at things like traffic count, cost of future maintenance, cost of regular maintenance, cost of salting and sanding versus the cost of brine allocation. So those numbers can come forward if council instructs our administration to do that. And I think this is perhaps what's been lacking in the past, over perhaps a decade or two ago, that those conversations maybe were conversations but didn't have substance. And we'll try to get some substance out of this, the result of this presentation. Council, any further questions? Yes, Martin, before I ask Martin, staff, Mauro, did you want to enter into this, or CAO, just out of courtesy, I'll ask them, or would you like council to continue?
I would defer to our roads supervisor, manager of public works to answer the question. I know there's been some ongoing concerns once this road was identified as from Councillor Vink in discussion. So everything's being taken very seriously. I guess what I will start with is we have a roads need study that we've put out for, which closes on the 27th of this month, and that's something that council is committed to investing in with the budget that was presented for 2023. But I'll let Mauro take it from there.
Thank you, Mauro. Go ahead.
Yeah, through your worship, thank you. CAO is correct. There is a roads need study that's out there, which we've requested a 20-year capital and a 10-year maintenance plan, which we also requested that they incorporate a gravel conversion program to include in the capital plan to see which roads would be ideal to upgrade to permanent gravel to a hard surface. Typically, you know, some of the components when you're looking at upgrading these roads are typically, like you said, with the traffic, high traffic. You know, which ones were we spending a higher cost on applying gravel? Which ones we're spending more money for dust control, and you know, which ones we're spending more time grading and maintaining. Ideally, those are the main components in order to qualify to actually convert the road, because those are the monies that's the time you're spending more money to maintain it, which would hopefully lower your operating costs. Just with this road, we did have those speed signs set up, and we just wanted to gather some information. Some information that we did get from it was that we set up on both sides each lane, and we got 51 average per week was 52 vehicles a day on that road. Now, if you know, council does consider upgrading the road to a hard surface, you know, it's not just putting a tarred chip on top of it. You know, the road would need to be reconstructed in order to maintain and hold that road. So there would be, you know, quite a bit of cost. Typically, right now, to upgrade a gravel road to a hard surface, you're looking around 400,000 a kilometer, and that includes the reconstruction plus the hard top. In regards to the operational component question, you were correct that when we plow the roads, we use a lighter salt sand mixture on our gravel roads, as you know, a higher salt content actually deteriorates the gravel road. The truck that does Trillium has that lighter sand mixture on it. The closest vehicle with the stronger mix would be the vehicle that comes from Wardsville. So if we did hard surface that road, it would be a 2-truck maintenance on that road, because the Wardsville truck would have to come and plow that hard top. Other than that, that's the information I have for you. If there's any other questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. That is an informative component of the conversation. Any further questions? Martin, would you like to, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just a question for Mauro. You said that there would be preliminary work done for construction of the road. Would that be done over a 2-year period then?
Through your worship, that's correct. So typically we'd like to reconstruct the road the first year, allow it to settle for the year, and then come back, do any minor adjustments, do some final grading, and then put the hard surface on top.
Where is the majority of the cost, in the construction or the hard surface?
The construction.
Thank you.
Okay, those are good contributions. Martin, concluding remarks.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. What I have in front of me, and I've shown this to Mike, and he can pass it around. I have something here that was in 2007, and we had 4 different surpluses here in Moses Township. And we had a former Moses surplus, 170,000, Moses landfill, 62,000, Moses woodlot. A lot of people didn't realize that, 160,000, Moses road equipment. Then in 2010, I sent a letter to Christine Scrimger, the auditor at the time. And in there, there was 3 different withdrawals taken out of the reserves out of Moses Township. And of course, none of them were used in Moses Township. So then later on, one time or another, the Public Works building was sold, 120,000. That went into Glencoe for the addition on their public works. And I had a worker tell me it's even a more dangerous situation than what they had before. So we spent millions of dollars on Old Drive, Park House Side Road. We just agreed to look into spending $4 million on storm sewers for a new storm sewer from Victoria Street on. We spent $352,000 on streetlights on the main street for 25 poles. After 8 years before, we renewed all those lights. So the only thing I'm looking for, I'm not looking for fair treatment for the Moses Township. It would be nice. I'm not looking for equal treatment. What I'm looking for today is an acknowledgement that we even exist in Moses Township.
I think we have to stick with the subject, Martin. I
That's what
really,
exactly I'm doing. I'm saying where all the money's
Okay,
gone
so-
over the years that I've been here in the 17th year.
and
And
questions there to the delegation in terms of what they've provided us. So I'll let you wrap it up. Out of
Okay.
courtesy, I'll let you wrap it up.
And at some time today, I am prepared to make a motion. So whenever you want me to make a motion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I just remind you that we do have a roads needs study that we have invested in. And that is a good tool to help us make a decision when we get that road needs study back. And I can have staff clarify that again if it's required. But this council has a commitment that we are looking at roads on a long-term basis, what we decide today will direct the course of roads analysis and hard surfacing over the next 10 to 20 years. And we are going to proceed with that. Staff have been authorized to attain that information. So it may be premature to make decisions at this meeting today in advance of that study that we are expected to receive.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I have a right to make a motion, and that's what I like to do. And especially since there hasn't been any money spent in Moses Township. So,
Well, Wardsville is part of your jurisdiction as well, and there has been money spent there. And I sign checks for gravel, and I can assure you that millions and millions of dollars go on gravel.
that's the maintenance. We do maintenance throughout Southwest Middlesex.
We do, and the gravel is a substantial part of that. Last call for questions. Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayhew would just like to point out that quick calculation is, we're looking at roughly around $80,000 a year that we collected taxes there on those services, which is quite a chunk. I can see why they're asking for this. And I just wondered when we will be getting that report. When can we expect the roads needed report to come before council?
Through your worship, the roads need study closes July 27th. We'll have to review the RFP, select the proponents, and then determine what our next steps will be. So Depending on the value, I'm not sure if a report will need to come back to council off the mic.
Yeah, and depending on the value, it may have to. But the second, the more important piece is, I think the results of the roads needs study would come back to council for your 2024 budget. So you can make educated decisions on what you want to do with roads. The mayor alluded to some items that coincide with this, and if I may, I'll just remind council. So study gets done, study comes forth. If you circumvent the study, there's two things. One, you're kind of saying the study has no value. I was kind of glad to hear that the two gentlemen indicated that on a previous study, you were fairly high on the list of maybe getting something done. So that shouldn't really change, but we don't know until we get it back. The third piece to this, I know I had some conversation with the Treasurer Director of Finance earlier in the week, and there is a concern that if you circumvent the roads needs study and the actions you want to take on it, there's potentially some grants that would not be necessarily available if you do it that way. That's all. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And again, I mentioned the comment of a data-driven decision, and that is what is often required. This is something that's not going to happen tomorrow. It won't, it can't. But if we put the ducks in a row the right way, I think the outcome will be better for not only the residents of that road, but all of the people in the municipality. We'll be helping to pay for this too. So something council should consider. Any last call for questions? Seeing none, I want to thank those John and Barry very much for your presentation. It has made some lively discussion, and I respect all comments from the councillors. Martin, yours as well. That it is a subject that has been dragging a very long time, not under this administration, but in the past. I know you can go back a very long ways in the history that Barry alluded to. There is a recommendation before you that council received the presentation for information. If you, Councillor Vink.
Well, I'd like to make my motion instead of that recommendation.
Then it'll have to come forth. If you'd like to reiterate that, the chair will see if we can get a second. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we put the Trillium Road Hardship Program, and that we make that our next road project.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Can't do that. Yeah, you know, you can run for council in the next election and then you can put that hand up, okay? Is there a seconder for that?
I just point of order.
Yeah.
Your worship. So under notice of motion, I'm asking the clerk here to even entertain the notice at this point to take it to vote. Would we not need to consider a 2/3?
In this situation, a notice of motion would probably be more fitting. However, since we are on the subject matter, the motion could be considered right now if we had a seconder.
There, just wanted to get confirmation. Point of order, your worship. Thank you.
And I'd like to ask for a recorded vote.
Yes, questions will follow that recorded vote. The request has been made. Our CEO take note of that. And questions? Councillor McGill, did I see your hand up?
Yep. What's the process for deferring this motion until after we see that roads needs study?
You would have to have the mover and the seconder agree to that. It's an amendment to the motion.
Deferring it?
Yep.
Oh, well, that's not gonna happen, so.
Or an unfavorable vote would also do the same thing, but yes.
Councillor Choi, please go ahead. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. With this notice of motion, would that put it ahead of the ones that are currently ongoing, or? Oh, I'm just
I
wondering what the
believe it
wording.
would, the motion supersede any decision that would be forthcoming under the roads needs study. Is the problem. Yeah, the roads needs study would become somewhat irrelevant in terms of where this would be placed. Am I correct in that? Do we have any?
No, so there was no capital projects on reconstruction of roads in this budget that was done for 2023.
And I trust my CAO to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe accepting this would supersede the road needs study to some degree.
To a certain extent, yes, the way it was verbalized and then seconded, it would circumvent, as this would be the next project regardless of what that study said. That's the way I'm interpreting it, and the clerk has his hand up, so let's see what Alan has.
That's the way I interpreted it. Alan, please go ahead, Alan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for a point of clarification to Councillor Choi, this is not a notice of motion. This is a resolution in reaction to the presentation. So this is an immediate action, not a notice.
Councillor McGill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I guess I'm gonna have to vote against this motion because I would like to see that roads need study. And I would also like to point out that in my time on council, I've had more complaints about tar and chip roads than gravel roads. So I'm in full agreement with our roads man when he says, you know, when he talks about construction, how we have to do it right. Because if you don't, I think people might be really disappointed if we didn't. It's expensive. It's more expensive. Tar and chip roads are more expensive than gravel by far. And the one speaker mentioned how much he pays in property taxes. Well, I think I pay about a little over 20,000 a year in property taxes to Southwest Middlesex and Adelaide Metcalf, and I live on a gravel road. So, yeah, I'll wait till after we see the roads need study before I could support something like this.
I think regardless of how this motion is resolved, I think that for any of us that vote against this motion, it's not that we don't accept the fact that it may be a very good idea to undertake the hard servicing of this road, but it's the timing of it. And if we're going to do it in the future, we want to do it right, and we want to do it fiscally responsibly. And if there's any grants available to help us and assist us with this, we certainly want to take advantage of that as well. Okay, a motion has been moved and seconded. I think we've been around the table. Alan, I'm going to call this question soon. I'll follow your direction when the time's right. You have a concern? Please raise it.
No, Your Worship. I was going to say that this is going to be recorded. So
it is. Yeah. Okay. So I'll hand it over to the clerk to call the names or Alan.
thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Joel Hagan. Yea or nay? Councillor Martin Bink.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mike Schuldice.
Yes.
Councillor Don McCollum. Councillor Mark McGill.
No.
Councillor Amy Choi.
Yes.
Mayor Alan Mayhew.
No.
Your Worship, the motion is defeated.
Okay, thank you. Morrow, the story's not done here. Gonna proceed with it with optimism and make sure that the council can endorse things such as this, that we're proceeding in the right manner, and we will not forget you, John. It'll be part of the conversation when this road study comes forward. John, please go ahead. Yeah.
I'm curious, is all council here today?
There's one absent.
Okay, so that person had been here, would have had a vote,
He certainly would have.
but as of now, he has no vote.
That's correct. He's not in attendance. He had a choice, perhaps to join virtually, and Alan, he's not on virtually. I believe he didn't.
No, Your Worship.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
If regardless, I can't speak for Councillor Myers, of course, but even if he was here, there would have been a tie vote and still would have been defeated. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, a tie vote is construed as a loss. Yeah. Okay, well, listen, I want to thank Barry again, and I can assure you that these are not idle words. efforts. We will keep you on the radar. And I have every expectation that in the future, I think council will handle this extremely seriously, and your time spent here is not lost. Okay. Things move slow in municipal government. It's not like our military careers or our business careers. They move a little slower. There's a process because we're not spending our own money. We're spending other people's money. So we have to follow that process. But I don't want you to feel like you're being put off. Okay. And I want to thank staff very much for your contributions to this as well. Mauro and Mike as well, and Helen. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item of business. Thank you. Alan, go ahead.
Your worship, I don't want to speak for council, but I mean, recommendation to accept the presentation for information.
That's next on the radar here. Yeah. You've heard the presentation, and we want it recorded that these gentlemen did give us, the council received the presentation for information. Is there a mover and a seconder? McCollum and Choi. All in favor? Carried. Chris Bailey, how are you doing? I'm well too. Good to see you. You're always a welcome guest. Chris Bailey is Director of ITS Service for Middlesex County. Bring a presentation with him on the topic of cybersecurity. Chris, we want you to feel at home, get comfortable, and sell us your wares. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. I know a lot of you have met before and I've worked with closely over the last term. I do see some new faces around the horseshoe today. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of who Middlesex County IT is, what we do, provide you an update on some things that we've been working on with Southwest Middlesex, and then a cybersecurity update, and then I'll open it up to any questions. So Middlesex IT is broken up into 3 different divisions. We've got our technical services division, who takes care of things like hardware and software. We have our business services division that takes care of things like process automation and improving daily tasks. And then we have our administrative services department or division, who's responsible for asset management, purchasing, and budgeting. We're responsible for the provision of efficient and effective IT services. We support over 850 users, 600 devices, and 80 locations across Middlesex County. Last year in 2022, we received over 10,000 service desk ticket requests. What we do provide high quality, efficient, and effective services to the county and 6 of our local municipalities. The programs that we design are delivered in a way to recognize and respect the context of each municipality. We try our best to share things throughout, and I'll discuss that later, but we do also really work towards doing things that specific municipalities are looking to do to achieve things within their specific municipality. We do a cybersecurity program, which contains education, detection, containment, and response, IT asset management, IT budgets, IT consolidation strategy, and data center hosting, broadband coordination and community engagement, and digital transformation and municipal modernization. So why we do what we do? Reliable, scalable IT is critical to the effective and efficient delivery of municipal services. IT plays an important role in the transformation of the county as well as local municipal services towards modern digital platforms. Municipalities do require capacity to deliver services to residents. Through digital transformation and business modernization, we continue to help build capacity towards that requirement. Just going to go over some of the benefits of the shared service. First up is economies of scale. So having this shared service that we do provide to 6 local municipalities, Middlesex County, Middlesex London Paramedic Service, Middlesex Library, it does allow us to distribute IT hardware and software across the board. A great example here is purchasing 800 copies of software, let's call it antivirus, and deploying that across all of our systems is much more cost effective and, definitely saves time and money than purchasing 40 for all the devices just in a specific location like Southwest Middlesex. In terms of economies of scope, providing a shared service allows not only sharing things like hardware and software, but ideas. Having 6 local municipalities as part of the service allows partnership and idea sharing and results in cost and efficiency savings across the board. If one location, let's say Southwest Middlesex, is looking to implement some software, chances are one of our other supported locations is as well. And that does allow us to collaborate and again, save time and money. When it comes to cybersecurity, it is pretty similar to our economies of scope question. Should a security incident occur at one of our supported locations, Middlesex IT is able to be agile and apply fixes and mitigations to other locations that may also be affected. A good example of that is we do share email filtering services across. So if Luke and Badolf happen to get a bad email that comes through, we're able to block that and notify every location that we support before it becomes an issue. In terms of costing of the service, we operate in a cost recovery model. We're not here to make money. We are here to just recover the incurred costs of providing you with the service, much different than a managed service provider, for example. Some highlights that are Southwest Middlesex specific. Office 365 is one of the recent large projects that we've implemented. It does allow for enhanced security, collaboration, and availability for staff. In the digital transformation and automation space, we're working as a group across all locations to determine ways to save time and money. Right now, our business services division is working closely with your finance department to implement electronic accounts payable. And this system saves time and resources and a whole lot of paper and allows for enhanced auditing and compliance when it comes to account payable. Cybersecurity program, over the past 12 months, we've taken a number of steps to secure your environment. I can actually touch on that in the next slide here. We've been able to leverage our existing infrastructure to provide you with IT consolidation and data center services. So this is a big one that we've been pushing out to a lot of locations. Instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars on your own internal equipment, we're actually able to leverage the purchases that Middlesex ITS has done to carve out pieces of our infrastructure when it comes to network and server and provide that to you at a very reduced rate. So getting into the cybersecurity side of things, always on everybody's minds. It's always in the news these days. It seems like you can't go a week without seeing a new news article about someone getting hit. So some of the highlights of the cybersecurity program, automated phishing tests has been extremely successful across all supported locations. This really does work to keep staff and council vigilant of potential cyber threats coming from email. At the start of this program, 15% of users were clicking on links at some of our locations, not Southwest Middlesex, so great job, everybody. Since the implementation of this program, that 15% has dropped down to 3%, which is definitely a massive improvement and helps me sleep a little bit better at night. The incident response plan is a plan designed as kind of a playbook if cyber incidents should occur. The IT department tests this plan yearly and updates and enhances it based off of the results of the testing. Another new thing we've implemented is multi-factor authentication. This is designed if someone needs to remote from home or another location into your network, it is a second check to make sure that that person is who they say they are. It's a pretty standard thing in IT security controls, and it's definitely, the technology itself has grown pretty exponentially over the past 5 years. A new service that we've implemented in 2023 is security information and event management. So this is a 24/7, 365 external service who helps us monitor your security devices and your servers. Should an incident occur at 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning, we're able to have this service automatically block that bad thing from happening. So we have a great team at Middlesex IT. Unfortunately, I don't have the staff to have people looking at a computer screen 24/7, 365. So this service really does help us secure your network and your environment. Disaster recovery and business continuity. During the emergency exercise last year, we did a cybersecurity incident. At that time, it was identified that there was a lack of a formal plan in place. There's definitely some stuff in place now, but we've decided and we budgeted, working with the CAO and Kristen, we were able to budget for this program and we're going to be putting a formal plan in place. Right now, I'm working with your department heads to get that plan together. That really just allows you to have, again, kind of an internal playbook should something occur that is stored offsite. So if you guys happen to get hit with some type of cybersecurity incident, you've got a plan to get your business back up and running as quickly as possible. Privileged access management. This is a new one that we've implemented. I don't want to get overly technical on anybody here, but it's basically designed anytime you want to do something on a computer, on a network, you need privileged access. This system actually checks in and out those accesses. So if somebody gets into your network, tries to bring up a cybersecurity incident, they're unable to because they cannot check out the privileged management to be able to do that. So I know that was a lot of information really quickly. Happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Chris, very much. All of council are indebted to you. I think there's very few here who haven't used your services in the past. Council, any questions you'd like to ask Chris through the chair? Okay, well, you're doing such a good job. We're silenced, but Chris, it's always a delight to see you. I can assure you that problems have not gone away. They'll be here in the future, and we know that you're there to help solve them. So thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, so Chris, just for instance, today I had 2 anti-spam messages. There isn't anything we have to do about that other than delete it.
You mean the message that shows that you have a spam email waiting?
Yeah, when it's on the inbox, it says right there, 2 anti-spam messages.
Yeah, so if you review the email and you see an email that you believe is actually legitimate, you can contact the service desk and they'll release it into your inbox. If you look at it and you know that's definitely spam, yeah, you can just delete those for sure.
Thank you. They seem more numerous all the time. Yep, they are. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and we will endeavor not to be a victim of your phishing tests either. We want to make sure of that. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on. Before we do, we'll have a recommendation to receive the presentation for information. So moved by Deputy Mayor Scholdice, the seconder, Councillor McGill. All in favor? Carried. It's recorded. Number 5 is the consent agenda. It's fairly light. It's been circulated to you, Council. 5A to 5D. Are there any items there that you would like to move into new business? I'll give you a minute to peruse that. Yes, Councillor Scholdice.
Thank you, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. There was something under Middlesex County correspondence, and I'm just wondering which subdivision that was approved.
I was absent from that meeting.
Oh,
I
okay,
was out
sorry,
of country.
I didn't
That's
realize
right.
that.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
I
yeah, okay, no
I
problem.
forgot.
If the deputy mayor hangs around for a minute after, Stephanie's in the building right now. So
Okay, all right. Okay, so that's a good day to get that, Michael, and I think I'd like that information conveyed to me as well. Yep, go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I believe in the county council highlights with the link in there. It's for the development off of Stella.
It is
Off Stella.
Okay,
Mhm.
I
Okay,
didn't-
that's what I
It's
presumed. Yeah,
From a meeting that we've had in April
Yep,
26th.
that is, yep, that's east on Stella Street, and it will be south of the Catholic Church.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Then we'll entertain that the recommendation is that the consent agenda be accepted as circulated. Is there a motion for that? Okay, thank you. Seconder for that, please raise your hand so I can see. Seconder, Councillor Vink, discussion, all in favor? Carried. We are on 6, committee of adjustment, which there are none, and Mike Henry, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. Public meetings, there are none. Number 8, finance voucher reports. There has been no, I don't believe there's been any questions submitted. Kristen is here. Should you need her assistance? Therefore, we'll entertain a recommendation that the voucher report be received for information. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Scholdice, Deputy Mayor Scholdice, Councillor McCollum. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Number 2, variance report. Kristen, I'll hand this over to you if you'd like to walk us through it.
Sure, I can do that.
Intensive report.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is your semi-annual variance report. It takes us up to the end of June. You'll see on the very first slide overall where we are compared to budget. The note on the side, we budget annually, not monthly, and some of our expenses are seasonal. For example, the pool and flower baskets, arena. certain large expenses like the debentures, we record once a year. Insurance, we pay for the most part once a year. So you'll see some variance in some of these just due to the nature of the expense. You can see in, I don't know if do you want me to go slide by slide?
No, I don't think it's
go
necessary.
through?
I
Okay.
think hit the highlights. If you can give us a summary at the end. it'd be great.
Sure. I think what most counselors will be interested in are the project slides. So you can see kind of a bit of a status update where each of the capital and operational projects are for the year. But overall, I think we're on target. All of our projects are moving along well. To date, we've received just shy of $23,000 in donations towards the recreation center. But I think that's it as far as the highlights go.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from council? Councilor Bing, please.
Which tab is that one?
Yeah, we'll give Kristen a minute there to find that slide and give you an answer, Martin.
Oh, there it is. Oh, sorry, that's the total for the whole. That's a negative. That 238,000 is a negative. So that's income for building permits. The building permit income is much higher. So that line, the building and bylaw enforcement, is projected to cost us 42,000, and so far we've made 238,000. Yeah, that is good news. That is good news.
Yeah. I love reports. I love reports like that, Kristen. So keep yeah. There's always something good about a bylaw infraction. I guess it's the money we make, eh? Okay, yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes, please.
Through the chair to the treasurer. Is there anything at the end of the year that you could see we would be over on? I see here that waste management is already at 57% and our drainage is at 115%.
Yes, so waste management, we only get there, we're still this year to get the quarterly, I guess it's kind of a grant until we switch over to that new program. So we're still waiting for the second quarter payment on that. So that lags, that only comes quarterly, it lags a little bit behind. So I don't think we're going to be too far off base there. And drainage, we haven't received the grant yet either for that one.
Okay, thank you.
Once they come in to our revenue stream, make the situation look much brighter.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor McGill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Getting back to that building and bylaw enforcement line where we had a lot more income coming in for building permits than we thought. I think so far we've just seen a report for the first quarter, January, February, March, and there weren't really very many building permits issued. So I'm assuming there must have been a lot issued in April, May, June.
There was a couple of large ones, really large ones.
So will we be receiving a report maybe at our next meeting
Yes,
on the second quarter?
yes.
Yeah.
Arnie just emailed me this morning for the numbers,
Great.
revenue funds. Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
CAO, please.
Let me jump in there because I think Chris and I were talking about that because it was a concern of issuance for the first quarter, but didn't we actually see that the numbers were quite up versus
Yeah.
other years?
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from a comparative basis, they were. Yeah.
I think at least one of our developments is at the issuance stage too, I think. So we'll continue to see that rise.
Any further questions? Well, Kristen, thanks very much for providing that to council. It's great to have that variance report. It is a check, kind of a report card on how we're doing, a checklist. And the chair will entertain a recommendation that the variance report be received for information. Is there a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Vink, Councillor Haggett. Any questions? Last call. All in favor? Carried. And Kristen, this was interesting. The Housing Accelerator Fund report. I see it's a 70-page document in there, and if you could kind of paraphrase that, it would be great, but looks interesting.
You probably don't need to read the whole 70 pages. That's the detail of the application. But in summary, this is just for council to grant staff the give staff direction, to work with the county in order to pursue this funding, so we can get a bit of a framework together for housing development in the area.
Just quick jump in. So the many of the grant applications require a resolution of council. That's really what this is. We need a resolution near Bussin so we can keep it moving. So the government knows we've got your approval to keep going. It's a $4 billion funding process. So over the course of many municipalities, but it's a lot of money.
Okay. Great. Sounds good. Any other questions to Kristen, through the chair? The recommendation is that the report be received for information, that council directs staff to complete an action plan and submit the application on behalf of Southwest Middlesex. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Choi, thank you. Councillor McGill, second it. Last call for questions. Yes, Councillor Vink.
I didn't read all the 70 pages, but so what happens, say, if we get a grant? Is it only for affordable housing then? And does that mean if we get a grant that we have to put so much money into it as well? What, have any idea what the rules are?
Right now, this grant is so that we can engage a company to help us identify what our strategies are individually and how we can go about achieving the goals that we're setting. So it's just preliminary information for now, and the funding would be to pay for this consultant for us.
Or give us kind of a roadmap to follow, and very often too, if any future grants are available, a prerequisite is they have a plan in place. So this it is a bit of a crystal ball, but we need it. Yes, you've got further comment, Kristen. Go
very
ahead.
often we're seeing with grants going forward that they have to comply with an asset management plan, which is where Mike was saying that following frameworks that are set out is fairly important to continue to receive funding, but also shovel-ready projects, they're kind of calling them. If we have plans done that are identifying needs for the area, we're more likely to get a grant to support those.
People should note that includes infrastructure projects as well. So.
All right, there is a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. The questions have been asked. All in favor? Carried. And the next one is the Can I Play Too. Mike, would you like to speak with this? This is not our responsibility, but that of the county. But
we're going to carry on with the manager.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead there, Crystal.
Sure. This is funded. It's a Middlesex County funded program. So they advance funds to us, and finance receives applications from residents in the area for their children to be able to participate in programs offered in the area when they have some financial limitations. So we go ahead and forward those funds to the associations, all in confidence, and then we report back to the county of the funds that we've utilized. So it's just a flow through of funds from the county.
That's good. Any questions? one of the pleasures of being mayor is that I sign some of those checks anonymously. I don't know who the recipient is, but it's a real pleasure signing those. And I would hope in any future communications that in terms of newsletters and things of that nature, that the public be made aware that we don't want to leave any child behind, and that these funds are available if they inquire with the staff. The recommendation is before you that the clerk and mayor be directed to sign the Can I Play To agreement. All in favor? Here. Okay, I'll move it. Moved by Councillor Choi, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shouldice. Thank you, Amy, for that. All in favor? Carried. For Costelli, we have 8B, Operations, Public Works. If you could walk us through the overnight parking regulation.
Thank you. Through your worship, before council is a report for overnight parking. Last council meeting on May 10th, there was a motion for staff to investigate having a restriction of overnight parking during the summer months to allow it. Before you is a report in this regard, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions we'd like to ask Mauro on that? Yes, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mauro. Just to clarify, this would not be on county roads, strictly just on municipal roads.
Through your worship, typically, no parking is on all municipal roads. Because there's a general sign that comes into the municipality that says no overnight parking. And it's typically on municipal and on county roads. If we're looking to restrict on have it on our side roads, on the municipal roads, we can certainly look into that. And not on the county roads, but that would be probably additional signage that we'd have to put up. But generally, the only signs that we would need to change are the ones that we're entering the municipality. And that's the ones that we were looking to change and then incorporate Southwest Middlesex.
Yeah. Any follow-up, Councillor Choi? You're okay? Yeah. Any further questions? Mauro, I expressed a concern to our CAO this morning in regard to this recommendation, and he walked me through it, clarified to some degree. My concern was the C1 zones, the downtown core, the parking in that area. Parking is just mandatory in order for those businesses to succeed. We want to keep that open. When they turn their keys at 9 o'clock in the morning or at 8 o'clock in the morning, they'd like to have parking spots available to them. Does this affect the downtown Main Street core? And I'm thinking, between the railway tracks and Sim Street, that area there, that C1 core.
So I think there's a couple things that we need to do. As Mauro mentioned, we can change the signage to indicate what areas you can and can't park on. Based on the resolution that was done of council the last time, and I think Councillor Haggett, this was your initiative, we might want to be clear on if there is a requested change of council this time when you make the recommendation. So if you'd like it to be all streets, you'd have to say so. If you're okay exempting the area that the mayor is mentioning about, we would just cater the signage to say that and adjust the signs accordingly. So I think that's really important. I think we want to be sure on what that was.
Yeah. I think just to add to that, Councillor Haggett, if I could, and Jody, I saw your hand go up. I certainly give you the pleasure of speaking in just a second here. There's approximately 26 apartment units on Main Street, so there's quite a few cars. And a lot of those businesses in that C1 zone, as you know, there's just a firewall between the business. There's no option for off-street parking. And if you're a hairdresser, or if you are selling helium-filled balloons, or if you're doing dry cleaning, parking spots are mandatory, for their clientele. And there is a problem of long stay parking. There is on Main Street. Some of it is self-inflicted by employees and things like that, business owners must address on their own. It's not a municipal responsibility to inform their staff of that, but it is an area that I think council have to be at least aware of, that that Main Street core, and it's not much, it's just from McCrae to Sims is the issue. It's tight in there. There's no parking anywhere else but Main Street. And we want to make sure that we've got that available. Even those handicap parking spots, someone with a handicap sticker could leave their car there for an extended period of time, and it would not be available for people patronizing the business district. Anyway, Councillor Haggett, please go ahead.
Well, I wanted the parking for the residents, not on the main street.
Yeah.
Not in front of the business.
Yeah.
And two, the people that are renting these apartment buildings on their business on the main street should not be letting their resident park on the main street, because that's not what it's for. And we've seen this, and I've been told about it. And I've seen, I'm not sure which business owner advertising on social media, free parking out front if you rent the apartment. So we have to leave that open. I was talking to people in the homes on our side streets, like they've done like the weekend. They all park and they can sleep over or whatever. And that particularly
I think that was very well put, Councillor Haggett. Thank you for that. Yes, Morel.
So through your worship, if I understand what council's concerns are, so basically on Main Street, because currently right now there's no overnight parking between 3 and 6 a.m. So I guess we could add some signs that still state that no parking between 3 and 6 a.m., which might deter the overnight parking, but still allow parking through the day.
That's correct. And those signs do, as of the terminology I use, was what they call long stay parking. Okay. If they can't park there between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., chances are that vehicle will be absent from the street for the rest of the day.
Okay. And just so that council knows, those costs weren't incorporated in this report. If we had to make up special signs that say that, that would be an addition.
Okay. Yeah. Councillor Choi, I think you had your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. I mirror what the mayor has said. I've heard from many business owners that, parking on the main street of Glencoe specifically seems to be problematic for them. A lot of people that want to stop and shop at their stores. If there isn't parking readily available, they'll just continue on and go shop somewhere else. So I do feel like if we could put something in place to discourage overnight parking there and to allow, people to actually stop and just do their shopping and then carry on would be a great idea. I do think it should be a little bit farther than signs. I think it should go almost up until Appen.
Yeah, I agree with you, Councillor Choi, on that. I think it could. They do. Some of those businesses do have off-street parking, but I think that you could define it for concession to McCrae, or concession to the railway. Yeah. There's going to be questions and discussions on this. Councillor McCollum, please go ahead.
Yes, what businesses are open from 3 to 6?
No businesses, but it discourages long stay. If you can't park from 3 to 6, chances are that you won't get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and move your car up front. It just discourages long stay. It's not carved in stone. It's not definitive, but as I think was put, the moral stated, it discourages parking in that area.
And just another follow up, what happens with snow removal in the wintertime?
Moral can ask that. Yeah, I think.
Through your worship, this restriction just allow, I guess to allow overnight parking would only be between May 1st and November 1st.
Okay. All right. That's satisfying, Councilor McCollum. Councilor McGill, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I know some municipalities even get more restrictive, like I think I've seen in Strathroy downtown, it says 2-hour maximum parking. I don't know what the mayor or Councillor Choi would think of that. That's something that would help or not.
If you're asking the mayor a question and if you want a response, I would say that may have merit. I think the time, very often I find if a person stops and shops and patronizes one of our restaurants, I think it would be 2 to 3 hours, but it would be one of those numbers. Yeah, Councillor Haggett.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, the 3 to 6 in the morning thing, you know, everybody knows I'm up on hours. I don't see a bylaw officer from 3 to 6 in the morning, to even work these people off this thing, let alone the no parking signs. So, and as far as the county road goes, when we're plowing snow, we do have letters from the engineer that we put on their windshield that says, please move, or or I could call them. So,
Yeah. Go ahead, our CEO may come to our rescue.
Actually, I can help you immensely here. Okay, so this was kind of my miss because it said any streets, and I was of the spirit of what Councillor Hagan had put in initially was not to include Main Street. So what I'm asking for is the recommendation stand be any streets, with the exception of concession to Appen. And the signs that are on those streets won't need change because they will have the current rules on them. So those signs won't be changed. The signs at the edge of town, we're going to need change regardless. So they'll change the edge of town ones. That will come at no additional cost.
Just just one correction from concession to McRae.
Sorry, whatever, I think it was.
Appen Road to McRae.
So we just add that to the end of the recommendation to exclude concession to Appen on Main Street.
I think that's
Okay.
that's fair. Okay, are you comfortable with that, Jody? Okay, that's good. Okay, the recommendation is before you, council. It has been amended that there is an exception from the for the core area to address the needs of the business community from the Appen Road to McRae. Is there a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Deputy Mayor Schuldice has moved it. A seconder, Councillor Choi. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. School crosswalks. Morrow, I remember receiving an email from a concerned citizen. I want to thank staff very much by looking into this, following reporting it to you. Please give us your report and recommendation.
All right, through your worship, before you use a report for a supervised school crosswalk, I did get a request from the principal of the Catholic school, and I also got a request from the resident. Before using information in regards to that crosswalk, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Maura, if I could start off, the cost of the $15,000 is not just for the painted lines. Is that for a crossing guard as well? Is it incorporated in that, or that 15,000?
Through your worship, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see the maps there. And just one follow-up question. Will there be any parking spots lost in regard to this endeavor?
Through your worship, I would anticipate there would be some lost.
1 or 2 possibly, yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Vink, followed by Deputy Mayor Schuldice.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So the supervision would only be about an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. Is that how that works?
Yep. Same as the other school crossing, yeah. They would be tied in, yeah, for the protection of kids. Yep, Councillor Schuldice, or Deputy Mayor Schuldice.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. This is a very busy intersection with the post office, bank, pharmacy, medical clinic, and a dojo. And it's also where the buses turn to go to St. Charles. Were there any other alternate locations considered?
There was, we were looking at, the intersections nearest to it, and we thought this would be the best because when we saw a lot of the kids were actually coming out of that street and using that intersection and crossing, so we thought that would be the best for them. With the school cross guard, I think that will help control the traffic with the person being there. But we did look at other intersections. We thought this would be the best route for them. Main Street is a.
Yeah, Michael, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And I just wondered if we could get, I would personally like to really know how many parking spaces we're going to lose.
I think it's two. I think it's two. Yeah, the chair would endeavor to say that it'll be no more than two.
So there will be no parking in front of the bank anymore.
Yes, correct. There, yeah, it would have to
One
be,
spot in front of the bank.
One
Yeah,
spot
I
in
think
front of
there's a
the
couple there.
and that's just basically for sightline and safety reasons. And I would put this crosswalk in.
Okay, thank you.
And council knows that there has been a history, particularly in inclement weather, where you're gonna have a danger to kids crossing there. And there has been a fatality at that corner at one time in history. Go ahead, Councilor Haggett.
I think it's a good idea even for the elderly, and people see the lines on there and they'll slow down, because we got the doctor's office, whatever they're,
Yeah.
whether we use a parking spot or not. Somebody can get clipped, it's a big corner. so,
I
you
thought
know,
the same thing.
If you know what's there, like for us elderly people now to get across. I just, cause I see so many elderly, like really, it's touch and go, right? So I think it's a good.
Yes, Councilor Choi.
Thank you. I'm curious if it was the county that recommended this location, has been to this location around 3:30 during the day, because there are vehicles parked, even for the safety of the crossing guard, I think may be an issue trying to walk out there, let alone with kids.
Yes, go ahead, Laurel. Those,
I can't confirm if the county engineer was out on site. I did send the location to what the county engineer and worked with them on this location. And between the two of us, we thought this would be the best spot for it.
and all communications I had, I shared with engineer Chris Trainey as well. And I'm sure that he would, he would certainly Google map the site and look at it. I know that he had put considerable thought into the process. Yeah, go ahead, follow up.
Yes, thank you. And with all due respect, a Google map representation versus what actually happens at that intersection on a day-to-day basis. It is, to me, not a comparison.
Yeah.
I know many people struggle trying to cross the street because it is so congested and the traffic that goes through there.
I can assure you that Trainey is very familiar with that intersection. In addition to Morrow, those two handicap parking areas, I know you can't consider them empty all the time, but very often those spots are empty. So the sight lines are improved for those as well. And they're located on the corners as well. Go ahead, Jody.
Just like, we had to move those no parking signs. So if you look where the no parking sign in front of the bank, just back and put it to the middle of the door. So if we're gonna go back farther, I think it will be better. If we're gonna take 2 parking spots, because a couple of years ago, we wanted to move and we moved it.
Yeah.
So it's already back in front of the bank door. It was a little bit more, I think it'll be back.
I think
A little better sight line.
the sight lines have been.
I turned off to have a chat. That probably just as well. So I think, again, I think the right one has been chosen, and I think Councilor Hague is right when it comes back.
Okay, any further questions? There's a recommendation before you, the staff be directed to install a supervised school crosswalk on Main Street at Sim Street in Glencoe, and that the installation and supervision of the school crosswalk be funded through the 15,000 in the reserve fund from 2021. Thank you, Kristen, for finding that money. Is there a mover and a seconder? Moved by Haggett. Seconder? Councillor Choi. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Council number 9 on the agenda, any notices of motion? None. Correspondence, Trillium Drive surfacing petition was received under 4B as it was both a delegation and petition submitted. Your Wardsville, Littleton Park, correspondence submitted by Your Wardsville be received for information, and that staff investigate the request submitted and bring back a report, and that Your Wardsville group be granted a delegation request after conferring with staff on those matters. And we appreciate staff's input, the request that Your Wardsville has put in. We want to make sure that they're listened to and all the parameters are studied. Is there any questions in regard to the recommendation that's before us? Yes, Councillor Scholz or Deputy Mayor Scholz.
I appreciate the work of the Your Wardsville Committee, but I encourage staff to keep our recreation facilities master plan in mind going forward. Until details are finalized about the cemetery on the park grounds, we are premature to be moving forward with planning to plant trees or other upgrades. While Wardsville is near and dear to me, we have several parks in our municipality and the community is all hoping to improve them. Our new community services and facilities manager is just getting his feet wet in his position, but reports listing work to be done should be coming from staff, not from ratepayers. With this in mind, I'd like to move that a motion be approved with the correspondence to be received for information and that staff bring back a report to council before conferring with the Your Wardsville group. Thanks.
Okay, providing that's in order, have you got any problems with that, Alan? So Mike, I thought that basically the context was that I assumed that staff would get back to us on that, but I have no issue with that. As long as it's in order, any comments?
Yeah, the only comment I have next year is if it's not in the budget, we don't do it. So that's the long and short. And that's anything that is recommended by the group. They should probably reach out to the politician and they can come to us and we can put it in the budget for consideration.
But I agree that I have no problem that council make the decisions. We listen to staff's recommendations, but this council will make the decisions and we can change them as we see fit, which we've done even today. Okay, is there a seconder? Or I'll ask for a seconder for that to see if the motion will stand, and then we'll take questions. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Vink seconded that motion. Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering if the Littleton Park playground sign was in the works of being replaced. I know other parks have had it replaced, so that is something that should be soon completed.
Well, if anybody hasn't met Kevin, there he is in the back. He doesn't have a microphone, so I'll answer. All the signs were ordered. Some of them have been up and placed, and others will be up shortly, but they're all printed and complete and ready to go. So they'll be up probably for the next week or so. Thank you.
I remind council too, it's very important to have a 911 number on these parks. If someone gets hit and they call an ambulance, you'd like to be able to direct them to where they actually are. So it's important to have that. Yes, any further questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I just wanted to also mention, thanks staff for the engineered fiber that went into the Littleton Park. It looks wonderful.
Yeah. No, I really.
Contractor did a good job.
Really good. Yeah. No, it's Linda and I were there last night, Kevin, and just blew our socks off. It looks really good. Top gun. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Choi, further question?
Thank you. Yeah, I am comfortable with your Wardsville group conferring with staff on the matters. I don't feel that needs to be removed because the report is coming back and it will be council's final decision.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with just leaving it how it is.
Yeah, no, that's not what the motion I made was. Staff needs to come back before council for direction before they do anything. That's what the motion clearly states.
Any follow-up on that?
Yes, and if I'm reading it correctly, it does say, and bring back a report.
Yeah, I know. If you read the last line. of the motion, that's what's changed.
Yes, so sorry, a follow-up. So they're asking to be granted a delegation request after they speak with staff, if I'm understanding that correctly?
No, I'm asking for staff to bring a report back first and then decide whether we need a delegation or not. Leave it in council's hands to decide.
I'm just not sure I'm comfortable with council to decide what delegations they're there. Questions on that? Yeah, that's my opinion too, yeah. Yep.
Your worship, we have procedures when it comes to delegations. If they follow those procedures and it's not vexatious, I believe that they could get onto the agenda if we have slots available. With that, I believe the deputy mayor's resolution as it stands doesn't preclude it. It just doesn't speak to it.
Okay, then we can live with that. I think all of us wish your Wardsville well and we want Milton Park looked after. I have provided some photographs of that cemetery that was there to administration. St. James Anglican Church, I believe it is. And that was there on that site. And we do have an approximate location of those tombstones are visible in the photographs. So we kind of know where they are. Yeah. And we'll work with staff. They're very capable, I think, of conversing with your, I know they're very capable of conversing with your Wardsville and together as a team and council involved that will resolve the issues forthcoming. There has been a mover and a seconder. I'm going to call the question. Yep.
Again,
Yeah.
to receive your information and that staff bring back a report to council before conferring to your Wardsville group. Basically, because we have recreation facilities master plan in place that we follow. And again, we have the cemetery that we aren't sure on where exactly it's located. So this is premature.
Just yeah. I feel a little uncomfortable about it because when staff provide a report, very often part of that reporting process is conferring with other people on it to get information. And you know, in order for a wholesome report and a complete report, they have questions, and very often those questions are best answered by people who are from the area, who know Wardsville. That's my only concern on that. The way that's stated is that, like, don't speak to them until you speak to us first.
Well, it's getting direction. Staff getting direction from council. That's clearly what it's for.
In the end, that will happen. It always does. Council make the decisions, but I hate to preclude
I see that they have already requested, and it's blanked out here for some reason, help from somebody and forming a questionnaire. That's where council's input really needs to be involved.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope, we're good to go.
Yeah, I'll give you the best I can. Okay, so first and foremost, if they've asked for help for a question with a questionnaire, that isn't really what we do. And we talked about that this morning in the meeting, actually. We don't, we can guide, give advice, that kind of thing, but to go out of our way to assist them in that regard wouldn't be in good form. But having said that, if they come to us with ideas for projects or things that they'd like to see in the community, we would certainly communicate that back to council first prior to that happening. Especially when it comes to things like what they want to do. I can tell you this, there needs to be a scan of the cemetery area there. We don't have that budgeted for, so we would not proceed with that or be able to proceed with that because we just don't have the funds allocated to do that. When that time comes, we'll likely put that into our 2024 budget to see if that's a consideration of council to let us know what we're going to do. But as far as assist with certain circumstances that clubs and organizations as a whole can do on their own, and not just your Wardsville, we expect that to happen. If it's the simple advertisement of an event, then so be it. Unless council would like to make a determination of what a not-for-profit organization is or who you want to include or exclude from those types of things. But as far as creating, documentation or assisting with that, we're not a secretarial office for people. So that's not our core business.
I just didn't want to put up any barriers between administration and these organizations. Councillor Vink, we'll try to bring this to a conclusion. I think that the motion is really not much different than the recommendation. It's very often semantics. And the chair will have to call the question because there is a mover and a seconder. Last call for comment. Councillor Vink, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Yes, I was a member of the Kinsman Club, so that's where the little Kim part came in. And yeah, I was wondering about that too before we could move ahead. I believe the previous CEO said we could not use that park because of the situation. And from what I know, we haven't had any further information in that regard. So therefore, I do think we have to clear up what can be done at that park and what can't be done before we can go ahead.
Again, we have had some informed historical advice from some members of the community there that are very much aware of the history of Porcelain, and it's a big piece of land. It wasn't the whole park is not a burial plot. It was a section of that land. And it was actually, the tombstones were east of the location of the church. So in the photographs they gave us. So I think staff are aware of this and they know the sensitivity of it. Chair is going to call the question. Again, Alan, you're comfortable with this. Can you explain how it differs from the recommendation? I think we'd all feel more comfortable there.
Yes, Your Worship, and through this, I'll be looking at the deputy mayor for confirmation when I make this interpretation.
Okay, but I'm asking for the subtle differences between the recommendation and what has been proposed.
Yes, Your Worship. So with this one, we don't explicitly talk about in delegations, whereas before we did. And as the CEO mentioned, with our procedure, they could still, in theory, have one. So they're not blocked. We're not talking about it. With this, there is also a very nuanced situation where I believe the deputy mayor is trying to say that we're not going to be into deep stage talks about any of the issues at hand until our facilities report comes back for our gardens that's already out there. So I look to the deputy mayor to see if that's what.
Okay.
He understood it perfectly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And Kevin, are you okay with this? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed. Carry. Okay. Like that. Unfinished business. Mike Henry, I don't believe there's any. New business, I believe we're done. County council updates are in the agenda. Announcements. There's none. Closed session. Oh, have you got an announcement? Martin, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I received a letter from Dave from Wardsville, and I contacted Morrow about a septic situation in Wardsville, and this Dave mentioned workers showed up and went to work. They worked hard. That's the problem. They deserve a lot of credit for work that they do. They should be honored and thanked for their profession. So a good news story for today.
Good, thank you, Martin. That's a good way to end the meeting. Thank you. Okay, there is the chair has not been advised of any closed session. Bylaws are before you. Bylaw number 2023/055/056 and /057. Bylaws are before you. Could we have a motion to receive the bylaws and adopt them as circulated? Councillor McCollum, seconder, Councillor Vink, all in favor? Carried. Future meetings, council, the only thing I'd like to mention there is that August appears like a very, very light month. And there's not hardly, very often the CAO and I talk of what's coming down the tube. And there's been very little coming in August, most of the county, slowed down that last month. And I'm not suggesting any changes to our scheduling this year, but I think next year, I think we could go one meeting in July, one meeting in August, and we probably could cover it. The only exception would that be, and the chair has done this in the past, Martin, as you know, that if there's a development that involves a lot of money, we will accommodate that developer and have that special meeting. So it won't impede any serious business we've got, but just something I might put out there. No actions are necessary, but I just want council to be aware that our August meeting is pretty light. In future years, perhaps we could consider one meeting as opposed to two. I'm sure we could look after all the business. Anything else for council, Martin?
Just on that subject, I believe the last council, we did have one meeting in August.
Yep.
So I believe that's what we had last year.
Well,
I don't know if you recall, Amy, or not. Yeah, I believe we only had one
Yeah.
meeting.
Mike Henry's in a better position than I to know what's coming down the tube. Mike, let it go as is. We have adopted, or is any resolution required?
It's council's pleasure. If council would like to instruct us at this point to change the 2024 schedule, we could. The only addition I can add in, Deputy Mayor Schultes chaired the last meeting, and not to his fault, it went 10 minutes longer than we anticipated due to an exuberant developer. But this meeting was relatively light, and I can tell you the planning meeting on the 26th is very, very light. So it is the time of year that most municipalities have one meeting in July, one meeting in August.
What's council's wish? Would you like to adopt
We
that?
only have one
Okay.
scheduled for this year now, right? So
All right, so 24th will do the same. Okay, all right.
What I'm saying is most municipalities, due to the light nature that happens in mid-June, you end up having one in July, one in August. So I'm asking if you wanted to entertain that.
All right. Council's wish, do you want to entertain that? For future meetings in 24? Or you could call
For next year?
it? Yeah, it is. I don't know whether it's necessary at this point in time. Yeah, it is hard to predict. Look, let's see how the development goes this year. I tell you, the calendar is ticking. We're waiting to see some cement trucks arrive for some of these developments and shovels in the ground.
The calendar is usually released by the clerk at the end of every year, end of the 23 for 24, and he can put it on that way and you can decide at that point.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Council, thank you very much. We'll adjourn this. Oh, there's a question. Yes, Dawn, go ahead.
Yes, well, it could be a meeting called by the chair too.
Yep, exactly.
meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And, if something was of urgency was happening, we can accommodate them. We're here to serve, and we'll do that if the need be. Okay, council, I think we've done our business for today. I want to thank everyone. It's been a lively meeting. We'll adjourn the meeting at 3:09.